I'll talk a bit about Aboriginal cars. Some of them are a bit rough on it. You'll see that in bush mechanics, but they don't have a problem with leaving them on the side of the road because essentially the idea is that a lot of these Fords from the 80s, a lot of them are interchangeable. I mean, very, very interchangeable. The same engines. You could, they didn't have perfectly identical engines, but there'd just be a changed head on the engine or whatever, and you could literally grab an engine out of one that was not fuel injected and chuck it in the fuel injected one and it'll work fine, and there's so many bits that are interchangeable in those Fords that they had no worries leaving them on the side of the road, which you'll see in bush mechanics. And then basically you only got to walk a mile or half a mile to get to another old wreck to fix up your one, or possibly fix up your one that's ran out of go up the road and you're stranded. And it's funny on that show, you see the way it really is. All they do is they, when the car's stuffed, stuff the bastard, and they'll kick the bloody hubcaps. And then what they'll do is they'll grab the bag of flour and I don't even know if they grab a bottle of water, but they grab the bag of flour, the blanket and the hatchet, and that's it. They just walk off and leave it there. And I'll talk a bit about their diet. Their diet is primarily meat. My sister says from her studies in psychology, she done a 6-month elective on nutrition as part of her 4-year studies on psychology, and she basically was saying that there's been government tests and all that done where Aboriginals can eat a kilo of kangaroo meat in one hit, and they won't eat again for 3 days, and then they'll eat another heap of kangaroo, and their blood sugar level will be the same the whole time. They don't get affected by the same sort of thing. They're also missing an enzyme. Like they're great. Their digestion is completely different, and they're great to be able to just eat meat and then still be fine, not eating for a long time between feeds. But if you do see them eating, as you might have seen in Crocodile Dundee, and that they never sit there with a little portion of meat like we would. They'll sit there with like a whole bloody leg of an emu or something like this, or a kangaroo, and they'll be eating that, and you'll look at it and you'll go, God blimey, there's pounds of meat, there's kilos of meat on it. Yeah, you're right, there is, and they just sit there chomping away on that, and then they might not eat bugger all for the rest of the day, and maybe not even much the next day. Just a few little bits and pieces, and a few little things that barely even rate as a snack, and then they'll bang, get another roux and eat that as well. But they've got a way that they cook them, and I should do another video on that sometime. But yeah, they're also missing an enzyme, so they don't break down alcohol as quick, so they end up getting more drunk and that, which is part of the alcohol problem that exists with them. But yeah, they're sort of they've got a different way of thinking and doing things. I'll say about how they bring their kids up. They aren't too concerned if they haven't seen their kids for 3 days at a time, because it won't matter. They'll be off with the cousins or the uncle or the neighbours or whatever, and they're sort of not too worried. And the kids sort of more or less bring themselves up. They're not sort of terribly stressed about it. It's sort of like a tribal lifestyle, and the kids more or less brought up tribally by a whole heap of other people, and sort of all no big deal sort of thing. That's just the way they work. But the other one I was going to talk on, just pause it for a second. Yeah, they've got this thing that's very different when it comes to what's mine is yours. And it's not like this is my packet of cigarettes and that's, your beer or whatever, and this is my... They sort of all share something chronic. And they'll sort of, they'll always come up and ask you for cigarettes and stuff like that all the bloody time, and ask you for money, just a few dollars for beer or whatever, all the time, and people think, oh, here we go, this is all Beggarville. But what they don't realise is it's part of the idea of what's mine is yours, and vice versa. And white people don't really like them doing this, but the funny thing is, if you're busting for a cigarette and you ask an Aboriginal, they'll probably hand one over. And they sort of, amongst each other, everybody has a bit of each other's and whatnot, and it's not like this is my tin of meat sort of thing. It's all share and share alike sort of thing. And, you know, some people wonder if, like, it may seem to white man that that's why their living standards are so low, because it's sort of like the communist thing, the same thing that brought the Soviet Union down is, why should I put in any more effort if I'm going to get the same as what everybody else gets anyway? Why should I bother putting it in a real hard effort then to get the same amount as somebody who doesn't put in a hard effort? And on occasion you may look at them and wonder why, wonder if that's got something to do with their low living standards. But they sort of do share and that a lot. And you know, you may have, I've heard of people who had a swing set in their front yard, and they bought it for the kids for Christmas back in the 1980s in a town I was in as a kid, and the Aboriginals next door grabbed hold of it, and it was in their front yard, and they said, what the hell are you doing that for? That's our kids. And oh, well, your kids had a good go on it, so we thought, about time our kids had a good go on it. Sounds strange. But yeah, but there are some that thieve cars and that, and that's not share and share alike, that's outright thieving. That brings me to the next one that I'll talk about, and that is Aboriginal law. Now, a lot of these Aboriginals go to jail for something they've done, maybe murder or something like that, and if it is murder or if it is stealing a car or something like that, you know, they'll go to jail and they'll face white man's law. Then they'll get out and then they'll face Aboriginal law. Woohoo! She's pretty full on. If you murder someone, the idea is that you have to face the family of those people who then get 3 or 4 goes at spearing you, come what may, if it bloody near kills you. That's some of the Aboriginal laws. There's another one that's an adulterer. If you're an adulterer, I don't think this really applies too much with some of the things I've seen with all the goings on with them in that regard. But they used to have this one where Aboriginal law would say that if you slept with another bloke's wife, then they get to spear you in the leg. And you got to leave that spear in, or they leave it in there. And this bloke will spend the next 10 or 15 years picking rotten wood out of a wound in his leg. Yeah. There's a town that, I think it's Nowra, Nowra in New South Wales, which also has quite a few Aboriginals in the right areas, as well as North Queensland and the outback areas of Queensland too. Basically the only place where there ain't a great deal of Aboriginals, really speaking, is my state and Tasmania, which is that little island state down below where I am here in Victoria. Now, with all this, in Nowra, they have Aboriginal council members, and basically the Aboriginals pretty much run the town. And they've decided to use Aboriginal law a lot of times instead of white man's law. Now, a lot of them will face both, but in that town and in some of these reservation areas and that, they decide that they're just going to face Aboriginal law, and we'll just leave it at that. And we won't tell white man about the crimes, and we won't have the cop, and the cop may sort of agree and get along with it all. And there's so much car stealing no more because Aboriginal law is actually working there because it's so damn harsh. So yeah, that's Aboriginal law. I may even make another video.